Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We'll just wait for some more people to join in the session. So just wait for a few minutes, and then we'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Just to let the people who know who's just joined in, just wait a few minutes to allow for people to join in. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat, and either myself or one of the team will respond to your questions. Okay, let's start this webinar. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about onboarding within Google Workspace, and I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 top tips on how you can simplify that particular process. My name's Pauline. I'm the CEO of Besbin Labs, and we're the creator and developers of Patronum, a Google Workspace management platform. But before I go into a demonstration, I'd first like to explain for those of you that don't understand what the onboarding and offboarding process is and how that can relate to Google Workspace. Many organizations call this user lifecycle management. It has a number of different terms, but typically it starts with an individual joining an organization. The relationship begins with the employee. It typically starts within the HR department. HR will then interview and then bring the individual into the organization, where they are typically handed over to IT in order to onboard that particular user into the systems that the organization provide. One of those obviously being Google Workspace. Now, many organizations will then send an email to the user. Um, Typically, that email will go to the user's personal email address in order to confirm the appointment, and also to tell them where to be, what to expect, how to access particular internal systems prior to them joining the organization on their first day. And then over the process of generally on the first day, the individual then will then be provisioned with their email, their calendars, file and print services, etc. And in a non-automated environment, the user will then have to create their own email signature. They'll have to set up Gmail settings. They'll have to request access to particular files. They may be sent emails related to Google Calendars, or they may not, and they may have to ask colleagues in order to have access to particular calendars, such as the holiday calendar, etc. Now, we're not going to cover the next 3 points during this presentation, but I wanted to finish off the the life cycle of a typical user. Now, normally through the course of an individual's career in the organization, they may change job function, they may change location, and that typically will dictate how and what services that individual needs to get. They may have additional responsibilities. They may need access to additional files. They may need access to particular project files or folders and calendars, as well as being given access to additional groups for communication, sharing, etc. And then ultimately, the individual will leave the organization. And again, from a Google Workspace perspective, it's important that the individual is removed from the system in a controlled and secure way. And so typically what would happen is the files will be transferred, emails will be archived, accounts will be either suspended, deleted, licenses may be removed, accounts may be archived themselves. And so that typically is the life cycle of a particular user. And so what I'd like to demonstrate in the demonstration is the top 5 things that we see and a lot of our customers are asking for when it comes to onboarding users in a Google Workspace environment. So the first one is to automatically create and send a welcome email. Now, that might well be an email to the individual. It might be an email to their work account as well as their personal account, and also an email to the individual user's manager to say that a new person has joined and this is the particular start date, etc. I'm also then going to demonstrate how we can provision information through our new user creation template and what that entails and what that means. And then I'll then show you through what we call policies, how you can automatically make sure that the right users are in the right groups. In the example that I'm going to be demonstrating, we're going to show you how different users are then added to the all hands Google group. We're then also going to show how you can share a calendar with the new members of staff, as well as sharing company files and folders, and then creating a folder structure for the individual user in order for them to basically gain access to the right information without needing to speak to colleagues. Everything is then presented to them in a very clean and intuitive manner. So with that, let me bring in the Patronum interface. So this is Patronum. As you can see, it looks and feels very googly. It's developed using Google's material design framework. And just to give you a bit of a flavor for the kind of things that we offer here, for new employees, we've got an organizational chart that they can browse through. But I'd like to show you how you can create the welcome email templates. So first of all, we need to go to our settings section. And in the settings section, we've got our email templates. And so here in the system, we've already got a number of templates already configured. So let's have a look at the email here to welcome the individual user to the organization. And so the email is going to be sent to the user's email recovery details. That's their personal email address. And we're also going to blind copy that email to the individual user's manager. We're going to title the email as your Best Bin Labs Google identity has been created. And then as we have a look at the email here, we've stylized this email. You could create a plain email, but we've made this email a little bit more attractive for the for a welcome to the individual, and it's personalized. We're going to tell them about their email that has been created. We're going to show them the password, and then we're going to give them a few tips in order to get two-factor authentication set up. You can add whatever you like to this. It's completely customizable. You can edit the HTML source and really go to town when it comes to the particular email. We can also send an email to the individual themselves, and here is a welcome email that will be going to the work account, and it just introduces the individual to the founder of the organization and gives the individual pointers into who they should be contacting inside the organization should they have any challenges or any questions. And again, it's a nice welcome, it's a nice onboarding email that the individual user will receive automatically when they join the organization. So there, as you can see, there are a number of welcome emails. We've also got emails that we're going to send to the manager. So here, a very, very simple one. The manager will get an email that says that an individual user has joined the team. So now that we've got these particular email templates, we're now going to jump into the new user template section. And so in the new user template section, I can first and foremost use my email templates as part of the process, but I can also predefine how I would like my users to be configured and set up when they are created. So here, we're going to have a company standard, which basically has the first initial of the person's name and their last name as the email format. We could have, if we wanted to, have had first name dot last name, first name, then a number. It's entirely configurable, and it can match your current company standards from email naming conventions. If there are a number or duplicate individuals being created, we will increment the email address with a number. You can place that number wherever you feel is appropriate in the individual user's email. Now, we're also going to make a number of fields mandatory in order for us to make sure that whoever is adding this individual user to the system puts the necessary details in order for systems downstream to pick up those particular elements, such as job titles, departments, etc. And so we're going to make sure that the job title is mandatory. We are going to specify that because this is a new staff member policy or staff member template, the employee type will be staff. We're going to make sure that the manager attribute is mandatory, as well as the department. And in order to send the user the welcome email, we're going to have to make sure that the email recovery and telephone details are also captured as part of that user creation process. And so in order to utilize that particular template, I can just go to the new user section. I can click on the new user there. It will ask me to select the template. We've only got one, as we saw in this particular system, but we do have customers that have multiple templates for different users that get placed in different organizational units, different job roles, etc. I can then click on next, and I will then get the new user form. I can then type Paul Lees, and it will then automatically provision my email address as defined, which is paul.lees. And also, as I browse through, the job title is mandatory. The staff has already been pre-populated. The manager attribute is mandatory as well. And I can then go ahead and create the account, and that will then create an account in the Google environment. Now, if I just jump back to the template again, we can also see that with the template, we've also got the email templates that this particular user creation template will automatically send. And so here we will be sending a welcome email to the user's email recovery. We'll be sending an introductory email, the introductory template email that we just went through. That will be sent through to the user's business email address. And we're also going to be sending the new starter email to the manager. And so those emails will automatically be sent as soon as a user is created in the system using the template. And we can also apply different licenses to the user when they get created. So we may want to apply different types of licensing based on the job role that the user has and dictated by the particular template. Okay, so now we're going to jump into our policy section. Now, the policy environment is our workflow element of the solution. This is where we can manage the automatic provisioning of users, provisioning the Google Groups, provisioning calendars, files, contacts, etc. And so we're going to select the onboarding policy, and we're going to have a look at what the onboarding policy does. So the first thing that we need to do in any policy is to first define who will be affected by this particular policy. And so we can define that based on the organizational units, Google Groups, etc. But for this particular one, we're just going to say all the users. So any user that gets created or any user inside our system, this particular policy will be applying to them. Now, we could, if we wanted to, narrow down that particular criteria by looking at any specific attributes in the Google directory, from a status all the way through to a attribute associated with the user, as well as any custom attributes that you may have added into your Google directory. But again, we're not going to do that because this is a generic onboarding policy. So then we just go through the tabs and decide, based on the criteria, what are we going to give to these users who join our organization, who are just generic all users. And so the first thing that we've added here is a Google group. And so the policy will dynamically manage the all hands Google group and add anybody from the policy into the all hands group automatically. And they will also be a member of that particular Google group. Under the calendar section, we're going to add the calendars. Here we've got a company calendar, but I could add any other calendar just by specifying a particular user. I could grab, let's grab Paul's calendars, any of the calendars that Paul has. Maybe we want to take a campaign calendar and we want to share that. And we can give different permissions to different policies depending on those particular requirements. But for this one, it's a high-level generic policy. And so we're going to just give the holiday company calendar to these particular users. Now, one of the most important things that I feel that individuals need when they join an organization is access and information about who they're going to be working with. And there's no better way of sharing that information than by pushing the contacts from the organization's Google directory to the individual's mobile device. And that's done through what we call directory contacts. And so here in the policy, we can click on the provision button. I can specify the directory contacts. By default, it just says directory contacts, but I can call this anything, staff address book, for example. And then we can then share all the Google contacts from our Google directory into the users from this policy's contacts, which in turn will then push those contacts to the individual user's mobile device. This then means that if anybody now calls the new employee, they will see who's calling them because their contact details have been pushed to their mobile device. Likewise, if the new employee reaches out to a colleague, they're going to know that it's a new employee. They're going to see their name, they're going to see their face, and it's a lot easier than just receiving a just a call from a telephone number that you're more than likely going to just send to voicemail. Now, in the files section, here we have the ability to add files and folders to the individual user's Google Drive. So here we've taken a shortcut from Paul's Google Drive. This shortcut actually points to a shared drive location. And so now inside the user's Google Drive, they've now got a shortcut inside their My Drive directly into a shared drive. So they don't have to then go on searching for which shared drive is it on. It's immediately available in their Google Drive that then jumps through into the appropriate place in the shared drive environment. We've also created a folder for the individual users called personal files, where they can store files that are non-work related, if that's something that you would like to do. And again, this is very straightforward to add. We can add files, folders from other individuals. We can make copies of files or folders from other people, or we can create a new file out a new folder infrastructure for those users. Okay, just finishing off here with the email signatures. And so within the email signature environment, here we're going to create a company standard email signature. We can do that through the HTML interface. And we can simply see that we've taken the profile image here by selecting the options from the personal drop down. We could have a photo inside a circle. We could just have the image itself. We've also got the user's first name, their last name, their job title, email details, etc. I can see what this would potentially look like for my users by just browsing through a particular user. So if I say Gareth, for example, well, there's Gareth's picture. His profile image will be stored in his Google email signature. His name will be populated, as well as his mobile details and so on. If we do another search for Kylie, Kylie's there as well. Details are in there. She doesn't have a telephone number, and so we've not displayed the orange M, neither have we displayed a blank line there. So if you just jump back to Gareth, just to see, Gareth has a mobile, so we've displayed those details. Those are all done through what we call conditional statements. The conditional statements allow us to specify whether or not we display something based on attributes being visible or available or not. We can also go through and set up labels for the individual users. So maybe you want to create labels in the person's Gmail environment. You might want to create some email filters for newsletters that appear in the in the organization. And most importantly, you would probably want to specify a backup regime for the user as well. And so in the backup tab, we can specify whether or not we just do an immediate backup of that user, and also to specify a backup regime. We call them SLAs, that you can then allocate the particular user to those to a regime that will then back them up on a particular threshold or ratio. Now, we can also, with a policy, allocate the managers to have a different level of access in some of these objects. And so here we've done another policy. The policy has a filter which is targeting only individuals whose job title contains the word manager. And within the Google group, we've grabbed the all hands group, but in this particular policy, we're now making sure that the managers are managers of the Google group. Now, inside of Google, this all hands group is an announcement group, so only managers can send to that group. And so this then allows for any manager inside the organization, whether they've been promoted to be a manager or they've just arrived in the organization as a manager, they will automatically be upgraded in the particular Google group as a manager of that particular group. Once you've created and saved your policies, you can just go back to the policy screen and then activate those particular policies. You just enable the policies. The policy will then run, and the users that are targeted by that particular policy, they will then be brought in, and all of the tasks that the policy has allocated to perform will then be performed against those new users. And so those are the top elements of what I think you should be looking at when you onboard a user into a Google Workspace environment. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And all that leaves for me to say is, if you would like us to have a conversation with you, and if you would like to have a look, and if you would like us to have a look at how we can improve your onboarding process inside your Google environment, please go to our website, which is besbinlabs.com, and then just click on the schedule call button. You'll find a link there, which will then display our availability, and you can find a slot and then book an appointment with either myself or one of my colleagues, and we can explore how we can help you better onboard your users. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll just leave a few minutes for any further questions before we end this particular session.